It's Dr. Tiffany. I hope you're doing well. Today was my Monday. Thank God it's over. It was a good day. It wasn't too challenging, but it's nonetheless a relief to be closer to Friday. So today's topic is going to be on behavioral changes. Why is it so difficult and challenging to change our own behaviors? Well, when I think about the brain, I think of it with the neural networks that it has, all those different connections. Now, let me break it down to the basics. So clearly, neurons are going to be cells in our brain, right? And they connect with one another based on our behaviors, based on our patterns in life. When I think of those neural connections, I think of them as constellations, right? Like constellations in the night sky. When we think about a constellation, we have a picture or an idea of a picture in our head, whether it's Ursa Major or the Big Dipper, right? So it's basically kind of like a little cup. So that's what we imagine when we think about the constellation of the Big Dipper. We would never dream to change it. But when we are changing our behaviors, we're changing the brain's constellations. Remember, the beautiful thing about the brain is that it's completely neuroplastic. Remember again that neurons that fire together wire together. So sometimes we're going to have to create neurons that fire in different patterns. It can be a bit more challenging, but once they are connected and wired together, they will fire in sync, and the behavioral change or the thought process change will be much easier. We don't always want to just change our behaviors to have more adaptive or healthy life behaviors. We sometimes think it may be important for us to change our thinking. Sometimes our thought patterns are super stuck and they hold us back because they're negative ways of thinking. And the same way we change our behavioral patterns is the same way we change our cognitions. It impacts the brain essentially the same. So let me show you an idea of how I tend to think about rewiring the brain, all right? So I am here in El Paso, Texas, and we have mountains, so I like to draw mountains. So here's a mountain. I'm going to draw a mountain. It's going to kind of, oh my God, it's kind of terrible. All right, you get the point. Kind of lopsided, right? Okay, so when I draw a mountain, what I'm trying to get to with behavioral change is to create a path all the way up to the mountain, right? So I basically want to summit the top. Boom, that's where I want to be. So I'm going to create a path as direct as I possibly can, right? Because that just makes sense. I don't want to work out too hard, clearly. So here's my path up the mountain. Can you see it? Okay, too easy. So when we create that path up the mountain, naturally the first time we take that path, it's going to be really challenging. So it's almost like get your machetes out because we're going to start hacking down all the cactus because that's what we have in El Paso, okay? So we're going to make it all the way up the mountain. We're going to have to set the big boulders aside and kind of start paving a smooth trail, okay? So in time, we're going to get even better at getting up the mountain, right? We're going to do better and better and better so that it becomes almost a direct pathway. We use it so often that it becomes the ingrained pathway, right? Now this is now an automatic behavior or an automatic thought for us. Boom, look at that. Look how beautifully in the brain we've wired that pathway up the mountain all the way to the summit, right? So now what do? We've already got this beautiful behavior ingrained, but now we're deciding it's not something we really want to have. So how do we rewire that? Well, obviously, we're going to have to create a new pathway, and that's really going to be a pain, but we're going to do it anyways because we feel motivated to do it. We have accountability to do it, which is super important. And so we're going to try a new pathway. Here we go, right? Because this is more adaptive for us, but it's going to take us longer because it's our first time. We got those machetes out, and you get the point. Okay, we're going to finally summit it. But what happens to that old pathway that we're not using? It gets canceled out, right? Like on a typical trail, overgrowth is going to occur if you're not continually using it, right? So we get rid of that pathway, and that no longer becomes the automatic pathway when it comes to a behavior. It becomes an antiquated pathway that we don't use. Though if we triggered it again, it would be much easier than creating another new one, but it would go away over time, and the new pathway that we're reinforcing over and over again will be substantial, and it will get us to the goal where we want to be. So often in life, we don't know where we want to be when it comes to change. Sometimes we're like at contemplation. Sometimes we're super ready to make change, and we have to decide when is the right time. What are our motivating factors to do it? Is it our friends? Is it our family? Is it our loved ones? Is it because we have career goals for ourselves? There's all sorts of motivators, right? The other thing we have to look at too of course, is our accountability. And accountability is so important. Oftentimes, being a doctor and psychologist, people come to me for accountability. Great, that's awesome. I'll hold you accountable. I sure will. Okay? But sometimes people aren't as strict as me. So, what we like to do, a lot of people use social media to help them. They'll say, hey guys, here's my goal. I'm going to place it out there for you. So, everybody's kind of tracking. I have this sense of accountability. I need to accomplish it. So, essentially, kind of using social media to help you out, it's a great idea. So, I have this special addiction myself. I love candy. And when I'm really stressed out at work, in between sessions, I'll go raid people's candy bowls. I've decided that I really need to stop because there are consequences to eating lots of candy throughout the day. It's not good, and I don't like the effects. Ugh. So what I've had to do is clearly stop eating candy. I actually had to go cold turkey, and it's really hard because I have a husband who can eat a ton of candy and it's not a problem for him, and a toddler, and it's hard to stay away from it, but I'm really trying my best at least to stay motivated. And I do see results. I do see improvement not only in my physical ability, but also as well in my thinking and my alertness, my ability to stay in tune. But just think of candy, right? Candy is just the perfect behavioral change because candy has such a positive reinforcement when we eat it, right? All those dopamines, those reward molecules, they love to float our brain when we eat the candy, and it gives us this high for a minute. And sometimes we think, oh, I can't think. If I write this next sentence, I need to give myself a candy. So that's something that is just a perfect example as how positive reinforcement with certain brain molecules can create an easy pathway. I've had to have to derail that. In fact, look, right here, seriously, I kid you not, I have apples, right? So this is my other way of getting sugar. I'm really trying hard, okay? I really am, I promise you. So I already talked about accountability, setbacks. Oh my goodness, we're always gonna have setbacks. I kid you not. My doctor friend over here, Dr. Johnson, she loves to have jelly beans in her office. She doesn't eat them. She's so disciplined. I don't know how she does it. But I go to her office and I'll eat it and I'll have setbacks. Even if I eat one, I consider it a setback because I just couldn't resist the temptation. Lately I have been good. But the idea with setbacks is if you're held accountable by somebody else, they'll understand that you have setbacks. Setbacks is normal behavior. But the problem is if we let our setbacks completely get in the way and destroy our new behavioral changes, okay? Clearly, I'm still attempting, after eating her jelly beans, to eat healthy. And that's the goal. Understand that sometimes we'll take 2 steps forward and a step back. But the goal overall is to achieve success and to achieve progress. Once we wire the brain properly, right, we won't have that issue. It will be the dominant neural network, the dominant neural pathway, and the dominant trail up the road. So once I stop eliminating the sugar, I stop craving it, right? It's just this crazy phenomenon. So I'm not creating this pathway, not only in my brain, but in my gut. And remember, my gut has lots of serotonin receptors. So it loves all that good stuff, right? So I am trying to rewire that pathway. Whatever pathway, I'm sure there's a lot of other pathways I need to rewire in my life. I'm sure my husband would say that. But nevertheless, I'm working one at a time and I'm being diligent, okay? So now you know I have a candy addiction, and here I am on social media, completely accountable to it. So I hope this helps with understanding the wiring of the brain and behavioral changes. If you have any questions, please go ahead and put in the comment section below. And of course, I'd appreciate any of your subscriptions. Y'all have a blessed day and push the love forward.